Hello, people of the internet. So I've recently been going through watching the Superman movies from start to finish. Not all of them, but the most influential ones, if you want to say that. So there's five Superman movies I want to talk about today. By watching these five movies, I think I figured out the problem with Superman movies and why they didn't click for me, especially growing up. So starting with the first Superman movie, I'm gonna put the first and second movie together because they kind of flow together for me. I had never seen the first movie, first Christopher Reeve Superman movie, because I don't know, the second one was always on and playing in the house growing up. And it does a typical thing of it makes Superman this kind of godly Jesus figure and everything like that, which again has always been a turn off for me even before I was a Christian. It kind of just takes you away from the character. But Christopher Reeve Superman, I actually like the character. He's very charming. He's very he has a lot of character. He cracks jokes. He's funny. He seems like a cool dude to be around. So overall, I think the first two movies are pretty good. I was actually thoroughly surprised at how good they were and how much they held up. Not so much, of course, in special effects or whatever, but dialogue and all this stuff. Yeah, it's campy and it's corny, but I mean, that's the point of the movie. It's what, 1978 when the first one came out? So I expected that, But then we go to Superman Returns, which is the first Superman movie I ever saw, live action Superman movie I ever saw. And this Superman is supposed to be the same one as Christopher Reeve Superman, but I don't understand it because these guys feel like two completely different characters. Brandon Routh Superman just feels like a soulless robot, where it was he had no personality, it felt like. Now, don't get me wrong, there's things I like about this movie. I like the action sequences in the movie, they're really good. This also has my favorite Superman movie poster, so that's nice. And surprisingly, this probably also has my favorite live action suit. I don't know, I just always like the texture of the S and the way it looked. The suit isn't really complex, it's not really a huge change. It's simple, but it gets the job done, and I appreciate that. But overall, this isn't a good movie. But I'll go back and watch it every once in a while because of nostalgia. That's really about it. Now, we're going to Man of Steel. I went away from this movie feeling just empty, and I don't remember liking this movie when I first saw it. I'm just gonna be straight up honest. And when I found out that there was a whole cult following of people that not only praised this movie as the best Superman movie, but praised it as the best superhero movie in general, I was like, nah, I gotta rewatch this because I must be missing something, because there's no way people are saying this is the greatest superhero movie of all time. That is insane. But I rewatched it, and I will say for the first I want to say 20 to 30 minutes of the movie, I was invested in the character. I was invested with the whole traveling soul searching thing and him saving people and everything. The destruction of Krypton at the beginning of the movie with Jor-El and everything. It's not until he puts on the cape where the movie kind of just takes a complete nosedive. Zack Snyder kind of took everything I disliked about the Christopher Reeve Superman movies and Superman Returns and kind of turned it up to a new level. Took all the deity stuff, the god stuff, the kind of stoicism, of the character, and just turned it up to cranked it up to 1,000,000. The movie is all about spectacle over, substance. I mean, that's fine. If you're an action junkie, like I am sometimes, if you want to watch a superhero movie that's just spectacle, I think this movie is great. But if you're looking for a movie that has good character writing, a main character you can actually get invested in, I don't think this is the movie for you. I also think my problem with this Superman's characterization, or his character, isn't even its root cause isn't even Superman's character. I think it's the characterization of Jonathan Kent in the movie, because Jonathan Kent is not like Jonathan Kent that we know usually. Here's the thing: the importance of Jonathan Kent in Clark's life, right, is very underrated, because he's the person that teaches Clark how to be Superman before he's Superman. He's one of the people that instills this level of morality and goodness in Clark, and teaches him how to be a man, essentially. And if you don't have that, right, if you don't have that person, then it doesn't make any logical sense for Clark to become Superman, right? Or at least Superman that he's supposed to be. And in this movie, it's Jonathan Kent, he says Clark needs to hide his powers, not because it's the right thing to do or whatever, but it's because he doesn't want the government to come and take him away. It's oh, don't let the government come. The government's gonna come if you use your powers. The government's gonna come here and use your powers. Yada yada yada. The government's gonna come here and steal you from us because they're scared of you. Blah blah blah. And it's it's like instilling this fear in Clark of using his powers. The last thing I want to say about Man of Steel, right, is this. I think I cracked the code on why people like this movie so much and praise it so much, right? So let me break it down like this. So imagine, like, you know, well, you don't have to imagine this was a reality, but Christopher Reeve Superman, you know, was very campy, very corny, very goofy, you know, it's like on purpose, right? And, you know, that's the definitive version of Superman in everyone's minds. Like, that's the one that everyone grew up with. That's when you think of Superman, you think of Christopher Reeves, right? Rightfully so. Like, he was a good Superman. Then we had Superman Returns, which is the same version of the character. They tried to modernize it a little bit, but it's just still the same, so supposed to be the same character, right? Which, again, I said that he doesn't feel like the same character. But anyway, so that's the only version of the character that people are familiar with, right? And you fast forward, Superman Returns doesn't get a sequel, even though I think they thought it was supposed to, like, pop off, but it didn't. So Superman Returns doesn't get a sequel, so they decided to reboot the character. Now, when Zack Snyder and Henry Cavill come on the scene, it's a completely different take on the character. It's more modern, dark, and grittier, and we've never seen that before from Superman. So naturally, people are going to be like, ooh, this is interesting. It's new, and it's shiny. And I think that initial thing where people were like so attracted to that different version or different take on Superman is why people love Man of Steel. I don't think it's because of the movie itself. I'm gonna be honest, the only good things about this movie are the score, like the music, and the spectacle of it, right? Everything else is kind of garbage. And I think people are in love with the initial reaction to Man of Steel rather than the movie itself. But see, now we get into James Gunn's Superman. So James Gunn's Superman is interesting because, like, the initial reaction was, like, again, kind of, from what I saw, mixed, because people were, like, so in love with Henry Cavill Superman, and I think people at this point had superhero fatigue from the MCU, and even might have Superman fatigue, which could explain, like, the box office numbers and it not performing well internationally. I don't know. I think that's part of why it didn't do well internationally. With James Gunn, I knew that the movie was not going to be below a certain level of quality when it came to just filmmaking in general. Because Guardians of the Galaxy, one of my favorite movies in the MCU, probably like top 3 in the MCU. With that being said, I'll say this with my whole chest. I don't care what anyone says. This is the best Superman movie. James Gunn's Superman is the best Superman movie for me because it made the character. I finally understood the character, I feel like. Like, I finally understood what Superman was supposed to be. He doesn't feel like this distant, far-off god figure that he felt like in the other movies. With this movie, he felt way more down to earth, way more human, which is the point, because it doesn't make any sense for a guy that was raised in Kansas to act the way he does in Superman Returns and Man of Steel. Like, he would be more relatable. He would be an actual character because he was raised here. And not to mention in this Superman movie, he actually saves people instead of just aura farming all the time, you know, like Henry Cavill Superman does. Like, he just aura farms and doesn't save people, you know, which, I get it, you know, but bro, you're not Jim Woo. Like, stop it. Because actually, I can't even compare him to Jim Woo because Jim Woo actually saves people. But anyway, this movie made me understand Superman and made me fall in love with the character. Like, truly, like, the cartoons really did justice to the character, and I think the cartoons are the reason why I was never a fan of the live action adaptations until now. James Gunn's Superman does a fantastic job of telling us who Superman is as a character. He just, like, felt like a guy who just, you know, was raised up the street from you. I mean, he talks like a damn youth pastor, right? Where he tries his best not to swear in his dialogue, which is really, really funny. Now, I love when superhero movies really do this thing where they have the character summed up in, like, one line. Like, the character summed up in one line. And I think that for both Superman and Lex Luthor, which Lex Luthor is, like, the other half, one of the best parts of the movie. Love Lex Luthor in this movie. I think everyone can agree that this is one of the best versions of him we've seen in live action. But one line I heard Clark say in the movie, and I really liked when he said it, like, I really liked it. I really liked the line because it kind of summed up him as a character, I feel like, is this line he says when him and Lois are kind of like doing this, I guess, interview. I don't know if we'll call interview. Like she's supposed to be interviewing Superman. They're in her living room, and like she was, kind of berating him for I don't know, getting involved in foreign affairs. And early on in the movie, we see that citizens are doing the same thing. So naturally, I think Clark has already heard a bunch of people kind of like come at him for helping Jarimpur and like the people of Jarimpur. So like during this interview, he's kind of more like sensitive, especially considering he's talking to his girlfriend, which he's going to be a little more sensitive because she's basically like saying what everyone in the world is thinking of him. She was telling him if she were him, she would have waited a minute and kind of consulted the president, gotten involved in politics and all this stuff and waited. But what he says is like people were going to die. Like he yells, people were going to die. Basically telling her is like, I didn't have time to sit and figure out and get someone's permission to go save lives. And then another line in the movie I love, of course, is like, the punk rock line. And when I first heard this line, the punk rock line, which is the line of the movie, it kind of went over my head. Like I didn't understand it. But then when I thought about it and like the meaning of like what it means to be punk rock, and punk rock is always about rebelling against the system. And Superman is in rebellion towards a sort of like pessimistic outlook on life, like a sort of negative outlook on life. I think ultimately James Gunn's Superman is a reminder of what superhero movies and also just superheroes in general are supposed to be. I think in a day and age where everyone is in love with darkness and like anti-heroes and writing characters in kind of like gray areas, I think that this movie is a very good reminder that, it's okay to just be good. It's hard, but it's okay to just try to be good. And it fits that Superman of all characters is the character to do that. So to sum everything up, the problem with Superman movies in the past was the character felt more like a god that was being worshipped rather than a guy that was just trying to do the right thing. That wasn't until James Gunn solved that problem and made Superman feel like an actual character. Also in this video, I was trying to strictly stick to like the live action movie versions of this character, but I'll do an honorable mention for the CW version of Superman because I feel like he's too good of a character not to mention here. I think I'm done. There's a lot more, again, I could say about, honestly, all these movies, to be honest, but especially like James Gunn Superman, like Superman 2025. I wanted to start a conversation with you guys in the comments, like what is not only your favorite Superman movie, what is just your favorite like superhero movie, right? Disagree with anything I said here? Again, we can settle in the comments. Let's have a discussion. Respectful, hopefully. But then again, it's the internet, so it probably won't be as respectful as it should be, but it'd be like that when it be like that, especially when it be like that. Anyway, love you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye!